Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going over the grayscale trusts and we're going to talk a little bit about the jobs data. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so today is the last day of the month. It's also the last day of the quarter, and it's also the supposed to be the last day of bearish seasonality. So we are heading into bullish seasonality next month, which again is supposed to be October, November, December. Is usually the most bullish time of the year. So what important jobs data are we looking at this week? Well, you do have Powell coming out to talk today. Actually, if I scroll up here, we could take a quick look at this. Let's see if I can find it here. It's here somewhere. Yeah, so Powell's supposed to speak today at roughly about 11 a.m. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, the Fed heads they're basically just gonna hand walk the markets to the upside, is what I'm expecting. That's pretty much what this is here. In terms of job data, a lot of people, markets seem to be fearful today on the jobs data, but I think that's overblown. I think the markets are just being irrational. I think the data is going to come in good. Again, you guys got to understand the Fed is now cutting rates ahead of the curve of ahead of rising unemployment. So in my opinion, unemployment's not going to rise. It's actually going to stay flat or go down, and job openings will increase, is what I think is likely to happen in the coming months. But we do have some important data this week. So we got the ISM manufacturing, we got the JOLTS job openings, job quits. Interesting how they put that in there after the whole great resignation in 2020, 2021. I find that to be quite curious. A lot of Fed heads talking, not really too worried about them. They've already said that they're going to be dovish and bullish on the markets. So, they didn't say it verbatim, but you guys kind of get the idea. I mean, they did a 50 when, a lot of people thought they were going to do a 25. So I think that's actually quite dovish. Doesn't look like there's really a whole lot on Wednesday. Thursday, I believe there is actually some big news catalysts on Thursday. Yeah, so we have initial jobless claims on Thursday. And then we also have more ISM stuff, but I'm not too worried about that. Another Fed member talking on that day. And then on Friday, of course, I believe we have the unemployment report, which is a big deal. And again, I am expecting the unemployment report to actually stay flat or come down. Okay, and I'm not saying that because economists are saying that. I'm saying that because if I were to picture how this is all going to turn out going into the future, that's kind of what I'm seeing, is that the unemployment rate should stay relatively flat and or maybe down a little bit in the coming months. So you got non-farm payrolls. That's also a very big deal. That's coming out as well. And then the unemployment rate. So those are both coming out early on Friday morning at the end of the week. And then the following week, what is today? Monday? Yeah, so next week we should also have CPI. So there's that too, but that's next week. All right, so I think what's going to happen this week is the jobs data is going to come out, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh, wow, it was better than expected," and then markets are going to rip to the upside. I think that's what's going to happen. So I think they're trying to price in the worst case scenario, and I don't think we're going to get that. I'm just going to be honest with you. All right, so LTCN, we got a break of this trend line here on the weekly time frame, although it's going sideways. Again, usually when we get the golden crosses, it doesn't necessarily have to go up right away. You guys got to understand this is a week time frame. Okay, so each one of these bars represents a week. Each one of these candles represents a week. It's going to probably take, even if we start smashing to the upside, it's probably going to take at least a couple of weeks for this thing to actually get the golden cross. But regardless, as of right now, I'm still kind of looking at, I'll go ahead and actually flip this because I do think this is going to turn bullish. I'm still kind of looking at roughly about this white line going out here to maybe, and I think LTCN will be much higher in November and December. I'm just going to say that right out the gate. I do think that's going to happen. LTCN will probably be much, much higher towards the end of the year. But regardless, for the time being, roughly support here is going to be somewhere between $11.30 to about $15. And that can, of course, go out towards the end of the year as well. So we got the resistance here at 25 to 27, and then we got the swing high here at roughly about 54. Again, you guys got to remember the all-time high is at $510 a share. So even at the swing high, it was still 90% off its all-time highs. And the fact that LTCN and BCHG did not go to all-time highs when the spot Bitcoin ETFs got approved further cements the idea to me that likely the top for Bitcoin is still not in. Okay. And we're going to see that, in my opinion, over the next 3 to 15 months. Okay. So just giving you guys the measured move here, we're looking at roughly about 122%. And then I'd say kind of somewhere around that, maybe 350, 360%. So BCHG, same thing. MACD's getting ready to start curling up. Again, you guys got to understand these MACDs have been going down. These EMAs have been going down for almost half a year. So that is actually quite standard for crypto. Believe it or not, Bitcoin does usually chop sideways for about 6 months at the bear market bottom before it goes back up. Sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, but on average, it's roughly about 6 months. Okay, so 630. I would say up to about $8 would be a good buy area for BCHG. We have roughly about 10.5 to 12.5. And then you got, I would say, about 18 to 20. And then 24 is going to be that swing high up there. So kind of anywhere in between the white line and the EMAs in my mind is a good time to buy. So roughly about 85%, 200%, and then you're looking at roughly about 260% respectively. The other thing I want to show you guys here is to kind of put this into perspective. Okay, this does not include going from the previous all-time high at 510. Just from the swing level, we are down 73%. Okay, that by itself, in my opinion, is bullish because usually in the, crypto can have large moves down like this. Okay, so when Bitcoin had its 2021 mid-cycle drop, when it went down 55%, some alts went down like 70 to 80% from their previous peaks. So that lines up perfectly with the idea that Bitcoin, had its little pump up to 75,000. Well, it wasn't exactly small, but it had a pump up to 75,000. And we had a retracement, Bitcoin pulling back a little bit, alts pulling back a little bit. So we had that small pump. And then, going into next year, we're going to get that bigger pump, or into the end of this year, start of next year. So HZEN, this thing is literally getting ready to have a golden cross here. It's literally on the verge of it. You can see it's almost touching. So I'm going to say 350 to about 425 support, resistance 690 to about $8. And then you have that 10.5 up there. Again, we do have a hammer candle right here. See this long wick to the downside? That's a hammer candle. That's very bullish, especially popping off support in the EMAs. In my mind, that is a super bull signal right there. So you're looking at roughly about 163%, and worst case scenario here, roughly about 202% move. ETCG, I will say one thing, there is kind of a formation going on here that I don't like. I don't necessarily know that this has to play out bearish, but it is a descending triangle. That's usually a bearish pattern. Again, we'll have to wait and see on this one. But as of right now, the lows here sitting at roughly around 780. I'd say anywhere between 780 to roughly about $10 is going to be a good buy area. Then you have your resistance up here at 13 to roughly about, we'll say 1590. So you have about $18 to $20. Giving you guys the measured move from kind of these lows here, you'd be looking at roughly about 102% and then 160% respectively. ETH, so potential double bottom and W pattern. There's also a gap here that has to be filled. We already talked about this. So 1850 is my support level here. 2350 to about 2850 is going to be that resistance. And then you have kind of that $36 area, and then the cup and handle target up here at 47. So if you did buy at the white line, again, if you did, it'd be roughly about 53% and 157% respectively. GBAT, so also a possible double bottom kind of formation here. 1, 2 bottoms, and then potentially even a W pattern. Support here, roughly about $4.50 to $5. Resistance, $7.75 to about $10. And $32 is going to be that swing high up there. Again, that is actually an all-time high for this particular trust. 91% and 509%. Fill G or File G, whatever you want to call it, about to get that golden cross. Again, this thing has been trending down for 6 months. So I mean, once we get the golden cross on these, that's not a small event by any means. Just understand that because it's taken literally eons to get to this point. So support here, roughly about 36 to 43. I don't think we're going to lower supports. I just really don't see that happening. Everything is lining up perfectly for bullish moves in the markets overall. So $400 is going to be roughly about that all-time high. So we got about 887% here. Again, if you guys are worried that these things might go to lower levels of support, you're always welcome to go back through previous videos and take a look at where those levels are. Maybe consider writing them down, or if you have charting software of your own, you can use that as well to kind of track these same things. It's entirely up to you. So GLIV, RSI golden cross, about to get the MACD golden cross. Nice little pop off support here. So support here is roughly about 11 to $15, and then we have the swing high up here at 80. So just kind of measuring from the bottom of those candles at 14, you'd be looking at roughly about 482%. All right, GLIV, same thing. I mean, it literally looks the same on all of these indicators. It looks very bullish to me. So double bottom, possible W pattern here. We did get a break of the trend line. We're still kind of stuck in between resistance and the EMAs. For now, I'm still going to say roughly about 39 to 45 is going to be that support. And then we have this kind of 65 to 85 as resistance. And then 220 is going to be that swing high up there. So assuming this thing does dip back down, which may or may not happen, and you buy on the dip, or I buy on the dip, whatever the case, 95% and roughly about 480% move. Okay, so GSOL finally showing a little bit of red here, although I wouldn't count on that lasting. I think it's probably going to end up going higher if I'm being honest. It just needs to get above 440 here, and then it's going to start creating higher highs. But for now, I'll just say support here is going to be roughly about 300 to 350, and then the resistance up there at roughly about 580. So maximum profit move here would be roughly about 96%. Again, once it gets past this swing high up here, it is officially again in price discovery, and sky's the limit from that point. Okay, so GXLM, we're kind of stuck in between these white lines. Again, I'll give you guys these white lines. So you have roughly about 15, you have 20 and a quarter, and you have, we'll just call that 124. So this white line down here would be the current support, 1450. And then the resistance zone, you have roughly about 53 to 59. Swing high up there at roughly about $70. So potential moves here, roughly about 295% and 356%. Manos, so we are respecting this white line. It is actually holding up. Again, the white line is at roughly about 10 3/4. Resistance up here at 1750 to about 2040, and the all-time high up here at roughly about $70. So pretty good moves here. I mean, you're looking at potentially roughly about a 7x. I mean, that's just to get back to all-time highs. So 80% and then 546%. And Zcash. So again, in my opinion, this is an accumulation. I think it's eventually going to rip. The white line is what I'd be looking at as support. Kind of a broad range would be anything between the white line and the top of this green zone. So 315 to kind of 515, somewhere in there. Resistance $8 to 970, and I'd say about 10 1/4 is going to be that swing high up there. So maximum potential profit here, roughly about 195% and 215%. Just keep in mind, even though there are resistance zones above these prices, once Bitcoin and crypto as a whole starts really moonshotting to the upside, it could easily just smash straight through these resistance zones like it's not even there. Trust me, I've seen it dozens and dozens of times. You can literally see it right here, okay? This is a good example, actually. I can show you guys. So you can see this used to be a resistance, right? We literally got up to this resistance level and just absolutely destroyed it. We didn't even stop at it. We just kept going straight through. So that's a pretty good example of kind of what could happen, assuming this thing goes super parabolic to the upside, which again, I think crypto is likely going to do over the next 3 to 15 months. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.